Okay, hello everybody. I'm a little bit nervous for today's episode. I've never done anything like this before. This week on YouTube on the Busy Blooming podcast, I wanted to do a new segment on the show, on the channel over here. I wanted to come to the Busy Blooming office today, come to work today, not as your boss, not as your content strategist, not as your manager, not even as somebody who's giving you tips or advice, but I wanted to come to you today as a fellow content creator, podcaster, founder, as like a fellow person who's 28, who's building a business, a brand, a following, a podcast, and share with you all of the things that I'm doing right now, like my current content strategy, what I'm doing on YouTube, what I'm doing on Instagram, on TikTok, with my business, with Busy Blooming, like to grow on social media. As you know, I've worked in marketing and influencer marketing, social media, all of this for over 10 years. And by trade, I'm a content strategist, a brand strategist. And so I thought it'd be a little bit interesting today to come together and unpack what I'm doing behind the scenes. And I thought because today is the first edition of this check-in episode, I thought we'd do one of these like every quarter. I wanted to do a little bit at the beginning of this about just like who I am and how I built all these things, how I went from 9-to-5 job to doing all this full time, and behind the scenes of like who works at Busy Blooming. And I feel like a lot of you don't know, my husband works with me full time and all my different income streams, and like just peel back the curtain about Busy Blooming, my business, my life, my social media, like everything. Okay, before we get into the rest of the video, I need to tell you that today's video is sponsored by Storyblocks. They are the perfect sponsor yet again. Anytime I'm talking about how to grow as a content creator, my journey as a content creator, building a business, building a signature brand, like just growing on social media, Storyblocks is like the best thing I can tell you about. Look at the screen right now. Like, look how fun layovers like this are. These are from Storyblocks. I use them all the time. Storyblocks is a stock media subscription service offering unlimited access to high quality stock videos, images, music, sound effects, and more. It helps creators and businesses enhance their content without worrying about copyright or extra costs or paying per video or sound that you want to use. It's a subscription, so everything's included, which is absolutely amazing. Today, when we talk more about my journey growing on social media, one of the most important things to me is having a signature brand and having certain signature brand elements. And Storyblocks is such a good way that you can really create your signature brand on social media through your content, whether you have certain green screen graphics that you overlay or certain sound effects or certain animated backgrounds that you use as transitions. Like Storyblocks has a full library of everything you could need as a content creator, as a business, to really make your content look so elevated and so signature. Why Storyblocks is so amazing is they have unlimited downloads, you guys, of diverse, high quality media for one predictable subscription cost. Getting music and stock footage, it can be so expensive for paying for each individual thing you need. And Storyblocks, having one subscription for everything is life-changing. They have authentic stock content created by real artists, and their stock collections celebrate the human experience, capturing stories and emotions that AI just can't replicate. You can use unique footage that tell real stories from real artists, which is just so much more powerful for your content to really create elevated, signature, amazing, high-quality content. To get started with unlimited stock media downloads at one set price, head to storyblocks.com/TessBarkley or click the link in the description. Thank you so much to Storyblocks for sponsoring today's video. You guys know I'm so deeply obsessed with them, and let's get into the episode. Okay, so everything will be timestamped below, all the different topics we're going to uncover today, so feel free to click around. Anyways, so I'll be turning 29 this year, and the whole decade of my 20s has really been summarized by the Kim Kardashian quote, "Get your effing ass up and work." That has been me since I graduated university. At 21, I graduated from University of Toronto. That is why I live in Toronto. I'm actually from Vancouver Island. I moved to Toronto when I was 18, and I'm still here 10 years later. This year will be 10 years living in Toronto. And even throughout university, throughout high school, I was always working in social media and content. When I was in university, I did social media and videography for the soccer team in university. When I worked at restaurants in university, I always did serving and their social media. I started a YouTube channel when I was in high school, and I did a little bit of it throughout university. I did lots of like internships and part-time jobs. I worked on U of T social media and helping them with that. And then when I graduated university is when my corporate girly era began. And so from the ages of 21 to 24, I worked 9-to-5 corporate marketing. I bounced around so much in my corporate career. I worked at KPMG, which is a big 4 firm in Toronto, where they film filmed Suits. I worked there for a year and a half. I worked at a cancer charity in Toronto. I worked at a tech startup. But throughout those years of my early 20s, I always spent my lunch breaks watching YouTubers. Like, I was so obsessed with vloggers. I so specifically remember Brooke Michio. She used to work, if you know who that is, she's a vlogger in New York now, but she was someone who worked a 9-to-5 job. And there were so many New York vloggers who had 9-to-5 jobs. I remember thinking, like, I want to do that. Like, I was obsessed with YouTube in high school, the era of like MacBarry 07. And when I have a 9-to-5 job and working in marketing, I always would look at people who were influencers also who had a corporate job. And I remember being not jealous, but maybe a little bit, like thinking like, oh, that would be so fun. Like, I wish I could do that. Like, that would have been so fun for me. I wish I kept my YouTube channel that I started in high school. Like, that just would have been such a fun life, but like, that's not for me. Like, I don't do that. I'm like a corporate person. That'd be crazy. And I don't want people in my corporate job to like see me posting on social media. Like, that's so cringe. But as time went on, as I'm sure for a lot of you, you think, okay, I've been watching somebody do what I want to do for so long. I'm just going to do it. So when I was 22 and I was working at KPMG, which is the most like rigid, structured corporate job, the most scary job I've ever had, I started doing 9-to-5 vlogs on YouTube. So this was in like 2019, 2020. So I did vlogging alongside my corporate 9-to-5 for like 2 years, 22, 23, 24, like those ages. And after a couple years of doing it, I gained a little bit of a following. I think I had like 10,000 subscribers or something on YouTube. And I remember thinking a couple years in, like, okay, there are so many girls who are doing what I'm doing. Like, they're in their 20s, they have a 9-to-5 job, or they're in corporate post-grad, and they have other things they want to do. Like, we're all really busy, but we have these big goals that we want to do. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to start a Facebook group called Busy Blooming, because we're all busy and we're blooming into these goals that we have. So on November 15th, 2020, which is the day after my birthday, I just had turned 24, I started a Facebook group called Busy Blooming, and it was for post-grad women really to connect and talk about work anxiety and our side hustles and all these different things. But then after 1 year of doing that, I thought, okay, you know what? Busy Blooming could actually be a business. And I was always very entrepreneurial. I was so desperate to be my own boss. Like, the way I romanticized being my own boss, you have no idea how desperate I was and like urgent and rushed to like figure that out. As much as I loved my corporate jobs, I started to feel like my dream life is to have this like aesthetic apartment in Toronto and be a podcaster or be a vlogger, own my own business, or do something like that. So I quit my 9-to-5 job in the fall of 2021. I was 25, and then the rest is history. There's a million pivots, rebrands. I worked part-time consulting, and then I went full in, and then I launched the podcast. I started posting on TikTok. I started coaching, and then I launched a course, took down the course, launched this podcast, and rebranded my social. Like, I've done a million pivots and rebrands. So that's a bit of a backstory on how I went from 9-to-5 until where I am now. There is so much more in there, like so much mess and tears and mental breakdowns and pivots and stress. And so anyways, today I'm sitting here, I'm 28. I wish I could go back and show my life to my 22-year-old self sitting in my cubicle, like making this Pinterest board, which I truly feel like is my life today. So what I actually do, like what I do for work. So we have Busy Blooming. So Busy Blooming obviously is my business that one day was a Facebook group, and now it is the business I have today. And my Busy Blooming is my everything, like my end all, be all. I want to do it forever. I have this huge vision that I want to actually show you today. I want to show you like my vision and what I want to do with Busy Blooming. And at the centerpiece of Busy Blooming is this podcast. In terms of income streams, my biggest income stream is this podcast, which I'll talk about more in a second. But my mission with Busy Blooming, with our podcast and anything down the road that we launch, our digital shop, like anything that we do, is I want to help people build their vision, their brand, and their business and become the best version of yourself as you're building that. It's like you're busy building something, but you're blooming into the best version of yourself. And like, yes, of course, we talk about social media, content, entrepreneurship, like marketing, social, mainly content strategy. That is something I'm so passionate about, but I always want Busy Blooming and everything I do to have this like deeper like level to it. And so Busy Blooming right now ultimately is this podcast as a centerpiece of the business. But then I'm launching Busy Blooming HQ, which is launching in 2 weeks. It is something I've been working on literally in silence since November. That will really be like the other half of Busy Blooming will be the podcast, and then Busy Blooming HQ, which if you're going to listen to After Hours today, just wait because I'm going to talk about it more. I launched services at Busy Blooming in January of last year, and going through 2024, I thought, you know what, like I actually don't want to own an agency. It's just not what I want to do. We had a lot of editing clients and we had a couple editors, and it was starting to grow. And as it started to grow, I started to think, you know what, I actually don't want to do this with Busy Blooming. I actually wanted to take it this way, which is the way we are in 2025. So today, Busy Blooming is a brand that helps you build your vision, your brand, your business, your content on social media, become the best version of yourself. We're a podcast, an Instagram, and Busy Blooming HQ, which is launching really soon. I have such a big vision for it, which I'm going to share with you. And then I'm a content creator on Instagram and on TikTok, which has been so secondary the last year and a half of my life. And then when it comes to my income streams, like how I generate money, how Busy Blooming generates money, I think this is so interesting. So my biggest income stream is this podcast. We work with one sponsor every single week. Truly, you have no idea how blessed is like the only word I can think of. I feel every week that we have sponsors booked out until the end of the summer already. The highest rate I charge for a brand deal more than anything is this podcast, because the Busy Bloom community, like the people who watch and listen to this show every week, there's honestly about 50,000 people every week. And I feel like for me as a podcaster, the target audience of Busy Blooming is so clear. You are a content creator, an influencer, and you work in social media in some way. And so when a brand sponsor pays to be on Busy Blooming, even if the episode gets, let's say, 10,000 listens total, you're getting 10,000 content creators, entrepreneurs, podcasters, influencers versus somebody who is more of like a lifestyle creator or has like a more generic podcast. 10,000 listens could be 10,000 of a bunch of different people, but maybe only a quarter of your audience would relate to the brand. But for the brands that I work with, I'm really strict on who I work with. I'd rather just not have a sponsor 1 week than have like a random sponsor. Like you guys know, the sponsors I have in here, I love and I use. So I ultimately have 4 ad slots a month. So I work with 4 brands a month on the podcast. And then usually I will also work with them on my Instagram or on my TikTok to usually bundle stuff together. If I was still doing one-on-one coaching, that would have been my biggest income stream. That is the most money I've ever made in my life, is when I did one-on-one coaching. When I was first getting started with coaching back in 2023, I would do 11 sessions a day, which is mentally unwell, but I did a ton of coaching. I love it so much, like meeting with content creators, influencers. My favorite thing ever is meeting with a creator and giving them a brand strategy of what their bio should be, their series should be, all of it, and then going to their Instagram or their TikTok and their bio is like what we made. The series is like working, it's like the most rewarding thing. I don't do that anymore. I'm going to talk about that in a second. Why? That was definitely pausing my coaching in November, November of last year was a strategic playing the long game move, because I took a huge cut in income. But I decided to pause all of my coaching back in December to build a Busy Blooming HQ. And like I said, I don't know if I've said this, but I feel like I've always played the long game so much in my career and my business with content, with everything. I've always thought, and this is like a blessing and a curse, but I feel like I'm just I feel like I'm very strategic by nature. And I'm always thinking like, is this what I want to do? Is this getting me closer to where I want to be? Is this an alignment? Like, how does this feel? Is this like our vision for it? And an example of that is like pausing my coaching to build out Busy Blooming HQ instead, which is something that I see being more scalable. I feel like I'm really obsessed with scalability, which has actually been a kryptonite for me in some things I've launched in the past. Is I'm obsessed with it being scalable. Like if this was 100 times bigger, would it still work? Another example of like being really strategic is in 2023, I had a course where I used to do a course on like how to grow on social media, everything we talk about over here. And I decided in 2024, I'm going to take down my course, delete my course off my website, not offer that anymore. And instead, I'm going to build out a podcast instead that is free, that people can come to every week and clock into every week. And you can learn all the stuff I was saying in my course, plus so much more for free. And I could build an audience that way. And again, that was a huge hidden income, like steps back to take a million steps forward. And I spent all of 2024 last year, like really trying to grow this podcast and grow the YouTube. And now I make so much more revenue from this podcast than I ever did for my course. But you have to like take a hit to like do that, if that makes sense. So that's an overview of what I do. So I run Busy Blooming full time, this podcast. It's pretty much our number one priority every week. We have a few clients we do services kind of like behind the scenes on. We have our digital store, our Instagram, which I really want to grow to be like this bigger part of Busy Blooming, and then Busy Blooming HQ, which you don't even know what that is yet. But in case you're watching this in like later time, that is also part of Busy Blooming, and I have so many other big plans for it, which I'm going to share with you. Okay, and then a little more behind the scenes of Busy Blooming. So who works at Busy Blooming full time, like who works here? So I have a very small team, and I love it that way. I feel like when I was younger, in my 20s, my goals have changed so much as I get older. I was always like, oh, I just want this like big, massive company with 1 million employees and a huge team and an office in Toronto. And like, I had these like different goals in so many levels, which I can go through more today. I literally had my brain chemistry rewired by Joe Rogan one day, which might sound so weird, but I remember him saying like they probably make like 5 million, 10 million a year from their podcast or something. And I think his team is like him and 2 people, and he loves it that way because it's just like so small and it's so simple. And I am not a Joe Rogan fan, but I just remember thinking like, that is the dream. Like, that's what I want. Anyways, side note there. But so at Busy Blooming is me, obviously. And then this is something I don't know why I just like haven't shared, but my husband Storm works with me full time at Busy Blooming, which has like actually changed my life since he joined. So for context, I'm going to put a video up if you're watching on Spotify or YouTube. This is Storm. It's my husband. Yes, his name is Storm. He is from Sweden. He's fully 100% Swedish. We met when we were 19 at University of Toronto. Storm has always been like a tech sales guy at heart. He is so smart. He is like the smartest person I've ever met in my life. And so anyways, when he was 21, he went right into tech sales. He is so good at it. And he worked his way up all throughout his 20s to be like a team lead at a tech company. He managed account managers and AEs, and he did customer success and sales, and like managed this big team in tech. And again, he's like such a hard worker, so smart, so good at everything, like one of those people. And in 2023, in the fall, I had just rebranded. I wanted to go through a rebrand with Busy Blooming. We had been around for about a year, and I thought, okay, I want Busy Blooming to be about social media and content creation. So this was coming up on 2 years ago. And I remember Storm, he was like so busy at work and thriving as always. And I said to him, like, what if you just spent the summer, because it was the summer at the time. I'm like, what if you just like spent the summer with me at Busy Blooming? Because at the time I like really needed help with things that are not my strengths. Like I just really needed help like managing all of my deals, all of like the back end, the taxes, the tech, the website, the customer success, like if someone buys something and the link isn't working, and just like the finances, the process, the management, like all of that stuff, which is not my strength. And he literally was like, say less. Yeah, I think the next day he gave us 2 weeks. I think both of us kind of knew when I told him, like, what if you just came here to Busy Blooming for the summer? I think we both knew, like, you're going to be here forever. And he has, like, changed my life, like, working not by myself as a founder and having someone like him who is not only so smart and so good at everything and so, like, techie and finances and management, negotiation and contracts and taxes. He does, like, everything in the business, that tech side. But he's obviously, like, my husband, and he's been with me since the beginning, and he just, like, knows me so well and goes with everything. Like even last year, I would be like, what if I didn't have an agency at Busy Blooming? He's like, okay, like let's not do that. What do you want to do? Like, where do you want to take us? I talk a lot on here about brand deal management, and I've always been really good at managing brand deals. I mean, I did brand deals like on the other side when I worked in beauty brand, but seeing Storm come in after having years and years and years of sales experience, seeing him come in and manage contracts and negotiations, I'm like, okay, I was not as like aggressive as I thought. And he's even like helped a bunch of my friends who are content creators with their deals. People come to him all the time with like people I know personally, we know personally, aside from social media, that are like our real life friends who do all this stuff. Storm always helps them like with their deals, their contracts. Like he's like our, like in my friend group and in so many people, Storm is like always like just unpacking like everything with people, being like, okay, no, you gotta ask for this much money, you gotta do this, and like he's just so good at literally everything, and I am obviously obsessed with him, and I feel so lucky like to be married to him, obviously, but then to have someone like that behind the scenes at Busy Blooming. And then I also have, I don't know, I'm gonna ask her if I can say her name, but Maddie, she works with me on the marketing and the social media and the content, which is so fun. So I have a team of 3. And I do plan on, I think, hiring one more role down the line. But we meet every Monday. We plan out the social media. We do the Instagram together and the marketing together. And that has been just like so fun. So that's who I work with now. I do also have an accountant and I have a lawyer. But I love just like keeping it like really, really small in terms of who like runs everything at Busy Blooming. And so that's like the behind the scenes. And then on a weekly basis, like what I do every single week is obviously the podcast. As you guys know, I work in priorities. Like I'm always thinking like I do my to-do list and priorities in my Notion template. I always have like the weekly priorities, the business priorities. I always am in mentally like a season of my life and then the priority in a season of my business. And then I align the priorities of, okay, in this like quarter, like what are the business priorities? What are my personal priorities? So right now, my number one priority obviously is this podcast, and then is Busy Blooming HQ, and then is the Busy Blooming Instagram. I really want to grow that and like reposition that as like a sole part of the business. And then the bottom of the list is my personal brand on TikTok and Instagram, which usually I don't touch throughout the week because I just do not have time, and that's okay because it's not the number one priority. I work through my to-do list in that way to not try to do everything at once all the time, which is what I used to do when I was 23, 24, and that was a nightmare. Okay, so that is a ton of background on how I got here, what goes on behind the scenes at Busy Blooming. In terms of my income streams, like a breakdown of that, so my biggest income stream is this podcast. Other income streams are brand deals on my personal Instagram, my personal TikTok, the services that we do behind the scenes at Busy Blooming, like a few people we edit their podcast, we do a little bit of management for a couple of people. The store, like we always sell our crew necks, hope like more products coming soon, but we have the Busy Blooming mini store right now with a couple digital products, a couple little things you can wear, but I really want to build that out. And then obviously YouTube AdSense as well. So the percentage in the order is number 1, the podcast, number 2 is probably services, number 3, brand deals on my personal accounts, and then the store, and then YouTube AdSense. I think that's like how it probably goes, but then Busy Blooming HQ will go in there as well. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about what I'm working on right now. So when it comes to Busy Blooming, I am somebody, I've always had a big vision for everything I do, whether it's like my literal Instagram or this podcast or Busy Blooming as a company. And I just have such a vision for Busy Blooming that I've had for the last like 6 months or so. I've been rolling it out because it's a little bit of a shift that we've been going through, a bit of a rebrand, pivot, elevation that I have for Busy Blooming. And this kind of goes hand in hand with is a personal shift I've been feeling in myself that kind of started at the middle of 2024. And I started to feel like being a content coach or like a social media guru or a the content tips girl, or like someone who has like courses in social media and coaches in social media and talks about like social media tips, that is not what I want to do forever, like in the future. And I feel like in 2023, 2024, that is really probably what you think of me as, is like on Instagram, on TikTok. That's how it got started, really growing, is talking about all these things. And obviously this podcast talks about social media and content, but I feel like for me, I started to, over the years, like box myself in and bring my business, Busy Blooming, along the way with me of becoming this like content tips, social media guru brand. And that is just, and again, like no shade or like whatever to people who do that, but for me personally, that is not like what I want to do. And yes, I will always talk about social media and marketing and creator economy, and we do over here on the podcast every week. But my actual like passion when it comes to marketing and branding and content, like I don't even know how to say this, but I really my deepest passion, something I feel like I'm so good at, and like I did this in my calls, is helping people see the potential in themselves and helping them like see it and packaging it and branding it and strategizing it for social media, for their business. Like I loved meeting with people. They're like, okay, I'm like really passionate about these 3 things, or like this is something about me, but I don't know like if I can do that or how I would do that. And I just like love sitting with people and creating a brand for them, like about them, which is what I used to do in corporate. But it's like creating taglines and content pillars and strategies and Instagram bios and series and hooks. But it's not helping you with the caption and the hook, but it's helping you create those things with that link to this like bigger brand about you or about your business, and helping you see like the potential of how big it could be. I feel like when I meet with people and I hear them describing what they want to do, I can like see it in my head. I can like see what this series would look like. I know what you mean. Like when I've had so many people, I like repeat back to them and I like play out what they could do on social. And I'm like, yeah, that's like exactly it. Like how do you, like you're in my head. And so that's really what I love. I picture social media as like this triangle, and the bottom of the triangle, kind of like a sales funnel, is like hashtags, hooks, like captions, even like series titles, bios, like all of that stuff. But there's so much like above that, that's the base foundation that we talk about all the time, of like your brand, your business, your income streams, your mission, your vision, like this like really solid thing that you can create for yourself through social. And I feel like I'm so knowledgeable, and I love talking about social media marketing, content creator economy, like all of that. But I feel like my purpose with Busy Blooming and like my vision for it is to be obviously like the go-to brand and a media brand where you follow our Instagram and our website and like other things we launch down the line that help you stay on the pulse of trends and what's trending and algorithms and content ideas and content calendars and like all the things Busy Blooming HQ is going to have. Like those things are so important when it comes to social media. But I also want to help you with like the bigger, deeper things of like building your brand, realizing your potential, giving you the confidence, the mindset to embrace the cringe, like go for it. And something I've always felt with Busy Blooming is I want to really help you feel a certain way. Like I want Busy Blooming to be this like feeling that even with Busy Blooming HQ, when you follow that, if you're part of that, or if you follow our Instagram, it's like when we're talking about trends and how algorithm changes and new launches and TikTok getting banned and social media and like all these things and like content ideas, and it's like a feeling of excitement and like I can do this and I understand this. So this isn't overwhelming. This isn't like this weird, urgent, like desperate energy. This is like fun and fulfilling and in my purpose, and like this is me. I don't know. I just like want social media entrepreneurship for you to feel the way I feel about it. And I want to help you feel really good and like have fun and feel like you, like build your corner of social media, build your world on, or not even social media, like if you want to build a business. Anyways, I just want to help like take all the noise of the technical part of social media, package it all together in like a way for you, and have multiple things under Busy Blooming that help you do that. So for right now, it's obviously this podcast, our Instagram, Busy Blooming HQ, our store, but down the line, like events and other things that just help you like build this vision in your head, and then when you're busy, and then bloom and like become the best version of you along the way. I have had a horrible time in my early 20s. Like just, it really broke me, like building my business and my career and this social media. Like it completely broke me when I was 26, and it has taken me almost 2 years of like rebuilding myself and like just not even ever getting back to that version, but becoming this new version of me that's like grounded and really prioritizes like how your life feels, not how it looks. And I want you to feel that way too. So anyways, I feel like, I don't know if that made any sense. I'm kind of rambling. So it happens when I don't have notes for an episode. But yeah, that's like my overall, I guess, vision and mission of Busy Blooming. But so anyways, going back to what I was saying. So I felt like last year, yes, I was giving like, I feel like I do give good advice on like how to grow on social media and like, you know, you're going to become a full-time content creator in 3 months and like things like that. But it's just like a piece of it. And I feel like as I get older and I get more experience under my belt, and as Busy Blooming gets more mature, I don't want it to just be this like content tips brand. And I don't want to be like a content coach full time. I want to be a founder of this big brand and like movement of busy blooming for people in the world of social. And so I'm actually going to show you a little bit of my vision board, just like super quick. I am like a Canva slide deck person. Whenever we have like quarterly meetings at Busy Blooming, I'm always like, here's my slide deck. I have 6 different slide decks to show everybody of what we're doing with marketing, with social media, with Busy Blooming, with everything. Whenever you see me in Canva on a slide deck, you know something big's coming. But for Busy Blooming, I'll show you my vision board for it. So I have really been rolling out this rebrand a little bit. Not rebrand, but like kind of like tightening on the branding, elevation, expansion of Busy Blooming, which is having this package branding of being social media's favorite office and being the office for social media. And the reason I've been doing that is because of Busy Blooming HQ, which is launching in June. And that is an office, like the actual office that we can clock into. And so I really wanted to back up before that launch for a few months and establish Busy Blooming as this office, like brand wise. And it's so me, like the corporate in me. And what I want to really do with Busy Blooming is not make it just of like for new content creators or people who've never started, but be this brand for people in the world of social media. So maybe you're a freelancer, you're a business owner and you need to post on social, you're a podcaster, maybe you're a really successful creator, you have like 10 million followers or subscribers on YouTube, but becoming this more media brand at the intersection of influencer marketing, social media, the creator economy, mindset, mental health, self-development. And inside this office, which is Busy Blooming, the podcast HQ, like all the different things we'll do, events down the line, the shop, everything is like this office where you build your impact, quote on social media vision, and you build yourself. Like you become this, like the best version of you, this dream version of your life and your business, but the dream version of you too. And you guys probably know this. I'm so passionate about like self-development, mental health, mindset. It's like my whole life. I'm so deeply passionate about it. And I don't talk about it too much over here, but I really want to start more in addition to obviously every week talking about social media. So that's like a really high level on like so unfiltered. What I want to do is if we were like in a meeting and you worked here, like that's what I would tell you I want to do with it. How I see that working is like the Busy Blooming Instagram is like this big Instagram and whatever social media, however it goes, like our TikTok, whatever we do down the line, Substack, Pinterest is like this go-to account that you need to follow for whatever needs to come across your desk. You stay on the pulse of what's new, what's happening. We're reporting on Spotify launching views or the TikTok ban or what's trending or like the new algorithm. Like we are your like office, like we'll tell you what you need to know. And so creating an element of Busy Blooming that's more like a media brand about the world of social media and the world of content creation. So I've been switching the tone a little bit about Busy Blooming. Instead of saying like, here's how you're going to go on YouTube, it's like, here's how people are going on YouTube. Here's what's new. Here's the trends. Here's what's happening. It's less like content coach energy and like a little more like elevated. So I can reach more people. It's not just if you're branded to social media, which I also am very aware that people are growing with me through Busy Blooming. If you started listening to this podcast a year and a half ago, you might have grown as a creator, and I want you to feel like the brand is growing with you. It's not like we're always posting like here's to go from 0 to full time every single week. You're like, okay, I am full time. I want to be like a brand that grows with you and a podcast that grows with you. So we're not going to say like, here's how to grow from 0, but it would be like, here's what's working like on Instagram right now, and here's what's working on social media and mindset and all these other things. So that's a little bit of what I'm working on right now. Busy Blooming is obviously like just elevating everything to kind of being more of a media brand, an office, like bring the office energy. I love this brand that we have. Like you have no idea when you guys post on Instagram saying that you've clocked into work, you've clocked to the Busy Blooming office. I'm like, that makes me so happy because that is exactly how I feel. And I want us to feel that way. Like the hardest part for me has always been being alone as a content creator, and you have like no one to talk to and you have no boss, like nobody. And so I really don't want you to feel that way. And I want to create something that I wish I had. And I love that you feel that way. Like you have coworkers at Busy Blooming, I'm here. And then Busy Blooming HQ will just be like even deeper of doing that. But if you don't even join that, it's the podcast every week for free. You like clock into work. And I love this idea of being an office for social media. I love it. So obviously Busy Blooming, Instagram, podcast, YouTube, everything is so focused focus on social media, content, entrepreneurship, all of that. And then my personal brand on Instagram and TikTok. I haven't posted on TikTok in like a year and a half, really. I've posted a couple things here and there, but I really want to build out a personal brand under like my name, Tess Barclay, and have a brand that is all of the deeper side of social media. So have this personal brand under my account where I don't actually really give like content tips of like how to grow or social media commentary, because that's going to be all over at Busy Blooming. But for my personal accounts, my Instagram, my TikTok, I really want to build a brand of like the real life of this, like the emotional side of all of this, of how to manage like feeling alone and mental breakdowns and burnout and spiraling and like all of those pieces. I want to really build like a personal brand like that. But on my personal Instagram, like I even have this post of people pleasing is ruining your content. Like I used a navy blue that's actually the Busy Blooming blue, but I've just pulled the color down to like a deeper navy blue. So if I ever do a collaborative post with Busy Blooming, it will match and it's the same font, but it's like a deeper blue because I'm going deeper. So that's like my overarching vision for my personal brand, is like that emotional mindset side, but also just more of a personal brand about me, like the behind the scenes of running all this, what I'm learning, and like bringing you more kind of like a video like this, like along in what I'm doing, like so you feel like you're building it with me. I feel like I have not done that and intentionally not done that in the last year and a half, and just like being funny and like being fun and showing like my outfit of the day for work, for meetings, talking about like the lifestyle and the mindset and the emotion behind all this is what I want my personal accounts to be. Again, they're like a bottom of the priority list in terms of my work right now, but that's what I want to do. So let's go through my current content strategy and then we can wrap this video up because this is getting so long. So let's talk about my Instagram strategy for right now. So the Busy Blooming Instagram has almost like doubled in following in the last couple of weeks, which is crazy. The screenshot I have on that Canva PowerPoint, we have 7,000 followers. Now we have 13,000, which is mind-blowing. One of our pillars at Busy Blooming is like what's going on in the world of social media, like news and updates. I made a carousel template that has just been doing so well. So that is a big pillar. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, we launch what's happening, like news and updates, and then what's trending, what's working in terms of content. Another pillar of content at Busy Blooming is like relatable content, like memes. I did this post of sorry, I have plans. It's like a bunch of content creator stuff, like relatable account where you feel like you're seen in the world of social media. Not even as a creator, but even as like a freelancer, you work on the brand side, like just you're in social and like you get it. Obviously the podcast in the Instagram is like another layer, but with every clip or with every carousel of quotes from the show I post, I really want it to be something savable that you can learn something from that carousel or that reel. It's not promoting the podcast, it's promoting what I'm saying. So I did a carousel about how to repackage your work week in your life. That post is like 20,000 views, has like 500 saves. Like it did really well. So that's the strategy right now, Busy Blooming and trying to post from one of those three every single day. And then on my personal Instagram, I actually don't have like content pillars set yet. I'm playing around with a bunch of stuff, but I'm really liking a carousel that's like people pleasing is doing your content, or 4 uncomfortable questions to ask yourself if you're feeling stuck, like a lot of mindset things when it comes to building what you want to build. And I do really want to start posting more like fun, like outfit of the days. I love stuff like that. Like I like creating and watching like what I'm wearing. I really want to talk about things I do to take care of my mental health, like supplements. I'm so into supplements. I take habits I do every day to like help me fuel me and so I can fuel my business. So really having a creative outlet for all of those passions I have, but again, I just like haven't had the time to do. But stay tuned over on my personal Instagram and my TikTok. I need to get back on there. In terms of the podcast and YouTube strategy, so my strategy in 2024, I shared last week a little bit, but it was really to treat the podcast like a YouTube channel. And my whole goal of last year with every single video was like outreach video, get new people who don't know who I am, like reach new people every single week. And going into 2025, the last like 2 months, I've really started doing this, is I'm talking to people who follow me. Like it's more every week. It's not like we're totally like a podcast because I do really want to optimize the content for YouTube. But I found for myself, one of the things I started really struggling with was that sometimes being a content strategist and like knowing so much about social media, it like makes it, you get in your head so much as a creator because you do really know what works and how to grow. And so I feel like, again, it's been one of those playing the long game decisions last, like, so far this year of really talking to you. Like, you subscribe, you follow, you're part of the Busy Bling office, you come to work every week here, and like just starting to talk to you more about things that we talk about over here rather than like, okay, here's how to go from 0 to 1 million on Instagram, which I do like doing content like that. I'm actually going to do a video like that next week, or maybe the week after. But my goal for the podcast right now is not to get viral, as many views as possible, like reach brand new people. It's really to talk to you and like get closer together, like nurture what we have and like try to meet you more where you're at rather than trying to meet new people. And so how I'm doing that is having segments of the show where I do after hours, where I do talk more like personal about me, mindset things I'm learning, and more emotional things. I have the branding, obviously, like the office kind of work. I love it. And then when we have our meetings, that's not like so starting from zero. It's more like strategy and tactical things you can do. Like I even like a challenge, a 3-month plan, how to rebrand, how to make money. I'm going to start bringing in more the mindset of like how to not spiral, how to regulate your nervous system, like all of those things. I'm trying to create more for you as somebody who has watched me rather than someone who has never seen me. This setup as well, it's so funny. One thing I know about people who watch this show is you do not care about the way that this show looks. Everyone is so forgiving. Whether I get a new camera or a new setup or anything, like no one cares, like no comment, which like we love that. We're here for the vibes, not for the aesthetic. But it's so funny because last week I'm like, I know someone's going to comment about like the new setup that I have. Not even one comment, but that's fine. It's okay. But I have this new setup because I was hating the way our clips looked. Like when I would clip the show, I just didn't like the way it looked. So I have these curtains now, and the clip I posted on Busy Blooming and on my Instagram, which is actually something I learned. I used to spend so much time creating trailers. Like I would spend 2 hours, 3 hours on a trailer for the podcast episode. Last week, I just clipped the first, I think it was 30 seconds. Like I just took the first 30 seconds, cut it, made it 16:9, posted it. It has like 12,000 views on TikTok, and it did really well on Instagram. I think it has around the same. And I do think it's because the curtains is a more aesthetic background. I'm using like our font, but I think also it's like just shows you that sometimes the time you put in is not what you get out. And that's something, if you have a podcast or YouTube, just like take the first 20 seconds, especially if you're like intentional what the first 30 seconds of the video are. Like, you don't need to make a trailer. That took me so long. I don't know why, but this week on Spotify, we are going, like, the Spotify episode at the time of filming this from last week, it has 35,000 plays on Spotify, which is a lot for me on Spotify. And I got a notification this morning on Spotify that we're number 46 in the US on the podcast charts in business, which is so crazy. One of my goals this year is to really grow our Spotify as well, and like grow that audience, because I like Spotify more than Apple because you can post the video, and this is such like a video show, I feel like. So I'm really going to look into why this episode is doing, it's like double more than like what normally we get. Another overarching strategy that I have is I really want my Instagram and Busy Blooming Instagram to feel like a mood board for you. And when you go to it, it's like you get a lot of inspiration, and like I want to be more on the trends than I have been in the past, especially because I'm not working with people as much now. I do have more like time to think of content ideas for my own personal accounts, but like even the propaganda I'm not falling for, like I did 2 videos of that. They both did really well. So when you come to my Instagram or Busy Blooming's Instagram, it's like a mood board, inspo board of ideas for you too. Something else that I've been doing that's working is on Reels on Instagram. So when you go to create a Reel, I just upload a photo, and it uploads for 4 seconds. So rather than uploading a video to Reels or uploading a carousel, I upload a photo to Reels, and those have been outperforming any of my other Reels. So try that. If you have a podcast, something that's been working is when I upload the video, the episode to Spotify and Apple, I change the title so it's a searchable title, because that's really important on Spotify and Apple. I also upload a clip and a poll with every episode on Spotify. I host my podcast on Spotify. One of my goals is to get monetized on Spotify. You need 10,000 hours of consumption every 30 days, so we're almost there. This video was getting so long, and I thought this episode would truly be 20 minutes, and it's not gonna happen. I didn't make really any notes for today because I wanted it to just to be very unfiltered, and this is what happens. I yap for 2 hours. In terms of today's first edition of a check-in, that is where I mentally am as a founder, as a podcaster, as a creator of like what I'm trying to do, how I got here today, and what's working for me and my current strategy. This was so fun. I want to do these like every single quarter. So if you watched all of this, like thank you so much for being here and for watching. If you have anything else you want to know about me or my journey or anything, drop in the comments of this video and I'll ask it in the next video or the next edition of this. But I think that's everything I wanted to say in this section of the episode. Now let's get into the after hours. I do have like a few more emotional like mindset things I've learned and I've been struggling with that I wanted to unpack in that. And then I also want to tell you about Busy Blooming HQ. And let's get into it. Okay, welcome to After Hours, the after work social of the Busy Blooming office, the Busy Blooming podcast. Work is over. Even though this week's work meeting was a little bit less strategy business focused and it was very like personal, inward focus, but I hope you enjoyed it. I thought for the after hours this week, we do two things. I thought firstly, I would tell you more about what I'm launching, Busy Blooming HQ, and then I asked you on Instagram and on YouTube for any questions you had about me or my journey or how I make money or Busy Blooming or anything, and I thought I'd answer a few of them that I didn't feel like I covered. So everything will be timestamped below if you want to click through. Again, always feel free to click through whatever section you want to know. You guys know me. I'm so passionate about timestamps. And I'm so excited. It's a few days later. I got my coffee. If you're listening, I'm sitting on the floor as always in like a little bit of a sweatsuit cozy situation. Okay, so I thought before we get into the questions, I would talk a little bit about Busy Blooming HQ, which is something I have only told the podcast part of the office about because I just feel like if you listen to the podcast, if you watch on YouTube or listen every week, then you are somebody who's probably the most like interested in Busy Blooming HQ. So I mentioned this in last week's after hours, but since the end of 2024, I stopped my coaching. I let go of all my clients, my monthly clients, like my one-on-ones, everything, because going into 2025, I really wanted to both like rebrand Busy Blooming a little bit, elevate the brand, pivot our target audience, but also I wanted to launch something like Busy Blooming HQ. So what it is it is your new digital virtual social media office where every single day you can clock in, log in to Busy Blooming HQ, either on the app or on your website. It is a place that you can go to meet other people in the world of social media, like talk to me, meet other creators, influencers, freelancers, influencer marketing managers, like people who create on social media, whether you're just getting started, you have 1 million followers, you're clocking into your office where a bunch of people all over the world work and create on social media, so you don't have to feel like you're doing it alone. And obviously I will be there as well. And in Busy Blooming HQ, there's a few different sections of the office. I won't go into too much detail, but there is a section of the office where you can drop your content, get feedback directly from me that I can go in there every morning. I will be unpacking your reels, your captions, wondering why something flopped, needing feedback. So I'll be in there personally giving you feedback just like I would on a call. But also you can get feedback from other people in the Busy Blooming office, because I know if you guys listen to the show, you know content creation and social media. And so it's so nice to get people in the comments as well being like, oh, you should try this, or for your hook, you could try this instead, or for the text, or like whatever it is. So we can all come together like we're actually working together in the world of social media and get feedback on our content. But also throughout the week, there'll be different drops on trends, what's new, news in social media. I'll be dropping a content calendar every single week of content ideas. I really truly want you to feel like you have an office at social media where you have coworkers, people you're working with, kind of like a boss like me, a manager, to get feedback. You have content ideas, content inspo. I'll be dropping voice notes throughout the week. Like if there's something that goes on, like for example, this week, the propaganda trend is like everywhere. So I could do a voice note about like, okay, guys, you need to do an anti-propaganda trend and then the propaganda I am falling for. This is truly something I always wish I had when I was on my own after 9 to 5 or even with a 9 to 5 job, building up my brand, my business on social media. And I want Busy Blooming HQ to both be for people who are content creators and influencers, but also people who own businesses. Like if I needed inspiration and feedback on Busy Blooming social media, or if you're a freelancer, you have clients, if you're a social media manager for a brand, you have somewhere to go, which is Busy Blooming HQ. And Busy Blooming HQ, and like the reason I've spent so much time on this and like so much strategy and thought and like hours and months and like just so many meetings and time. The reason I put so much time into it is because this is something I want to do and grow and scale for a really long time. I really do see Busy Blooming HQ becoming like the centerpiece of Busy Blooming alongside this podcast. Like those are kind of the two big centerpieces of Busy Blooming as a business and as a brand. In terms of payment, this will be a monthly fee that you pay every month to be a part of the office. And it is so much more affordable than my coaching sessions, which were $800. It is not $800 a month. Could you imagine? I wanted something that was really, really accessible and scalable. Whenever I would be in my coaching sessions with people, I used to do a couple a day all throughout 2023 and 2024. I would repeat myself a lot. And not to say I will never do coaching ever again, but I remember thinking like all throughout meeting 600 people, in a way, I was doing like field research without even realizing of what people's questions are, what they need. And I could get like such a survey of, regardless of what brand you're building, how many followers you have, your topics, your niche, the series. Like I've seen literally everything across the world, let alone across different topics on social media. But I really feel like I have a good handle on what people's questions are and like what your biggest struggles are. So I feel like I've had this way of doing field research on content creators on social media to know exactly and build something exactly that you would need and that I would need as well. So I'm so excited about it, you guys. It is officially launching. I'm going to give the launch date on Monday, June 9th. So in like 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks. And on social media, on the Busy Blooming Instagram, I have such a fun marketing idea of a little like mini kind of like TV show mini series I'm going to do. And then I'm going to do some other branding and marketing as well. And I'm going to be actually vlogging. I kind of want to bring the vlogs back. I do miss the vlogs. At first I was thinking like, okay, I don't need to do the vlogs anymore because we have the Busy Blooming podcast and after hours, but I actually do miss the vlogs. So I think I'm going to bring the vlogs back like every so often. So we'll be vlogging for a few weeks, like filming all the promo and building Busy Blooming HQ and the behind the scenes of launch day and everything. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, I'm really excited about it. So if you actually want to join early, I'm going to be launching Busy Blooming HQ 3 days early for people on June 6th. For anyone who listens to the podcast, I'm only going to be posting this in here and after hours. So if you do want to join early, you will be in good hands of people who listen to the show. You can sign up on our website. It's on the front page of our website. You can just sign up and I will send you an email 3 days before launch that you can join early. Okay, I feel like that is enough about Busy Blooming HQ. I'm so excited. June 9th, mark your calendars. I literally cannot wait. I thought I would just answer a couple of questions that I got about my journey, my career, and behind the scenes and my goals and everything. We chatted a lot in this episode, but I feel like there was a couple things I missed a little bit. One question I have for you actually is, would you be interested in doing or listening to a full episode that's like a 9 to 5 deep dive episode? Let me know, because I have so much in my journey of like going from being 22 to now 28. Like these last 6 years have been just stacked full of so many lessons that even in this episode, it's so hard to package into like a 2-minute overview. But let me know, because the 9 to 5 transition of like when you know it's time to quit or making money or the reality of like what it's actually like after 9 to 5, let me know, because I can do a whole episode of like a guide on quitting your 9 to 5 job. Let me know, because I can dive into that more. But the biggest question I really got is kind of, how did you turn Busy Blooming into a full-time job, and when did you know it was time to leave? So I can answer that more if we do a full deep dive episode, but I quit my 9 to 5 job about like a week before I turned 25. I quit way too early. I should have stayed another year because I was making 80 grand a year. My job was really not that hard. It was pretty like manageable, pretty easy. I worked from home and I can't even describe it, like so urgent and desperate to be my own boss. Like I jumped in. I guess you wouldn't say too early, because obviously it all worked out, but it was absolute chaos. Like the first 2 years after leaving my 9 to 5, like those ages of 25, 26 were absolute like quantum leap chaos. Basically, I quit because I was making $1,100 from YouTube AdSense, and like I think I got one brand deal a month probably. I think I was probably like, I don't know, making like $700 per brand deal if I did one a month, and then I make a few hundred from YouTube. I was like, okay, my rent at the time I think was like maybe $2,000. And I thought, okay, if I could just make a couple thousand more a month, then I'm fine. I'll just quit. Like I'll figure it out, which is my like truly I say that all the time. We will figure it out along the way. And I took a couple part-time jobs doing influencer marketing at a beauty brand and another consulting firm where I was making like nothing, like no money. I think it was like $18 an hour or something, and it was like a couple hours a week. But I thought, you know what, that's enough. I'll be fine. I'll probably grow my YouTube, like I'll grow everything, and I just like quit. And I had an Excel spreadsheet of how much money I thought I would need. But the thing was, when I quit my 9-to-5 job, the energy shifts so much with your content that you're like, I need this to work. And my views started kind of dipping. And so I was making less AdSense. If I didn't get a brand deal 1 month, I was making like nothing from YouTube. And then when you take a bunch of contracts, like as a freelancer, you don't have one boss, you have like a bunch of bosses. It was really financially stressful. But then I remember this so clearly, sitting in February. It was like, I quit my job in November. It was a few months later in February, thinking like, I'm going to make nothing this month. Like I am barely getting any views on YouTube. I think this was in like the very beginning of 2022. And I remember thinking like, okay, how can I make more money? Like, how could I make some revenue? And I thought, you know what? Why don't I offer up my coaching? Like, why don't I start coaching? I could start auditing people's TikToks. Like I could start doing that. Like it's something I'm good at. Why don't I start like opening a little stand store and offering one-on-ones? And I did. And I think I made $12,000 the next month from one-on-ones. I think I charged like $70 or something for 30 minutes of like an audit and a strategy, and it was the most fun thing ever. I got obsessed with it, and too obsessed because I started doing 11 sessions a day at 25 years old, and then obviously a year later just absolutely burnt out from not just doing that, but building and rebranding and doing a million things. But I fell in love with coaching like that next month, and yeah. And through all of that, I have so many thoughts. Every time I just talked to somebody who had just quit her 9-to-5 job, and she's like, I feel like I have no idea what I'm doing. And I'm like, of course you do. I know that feeling so well. When you go from being in corporate to being alone, you are alone with your thoughts like all day, and then you're working for yourself. And the biggest lesson I've learned is you say you want to be your own boss, and you have to truly be your own boss. Like treat yourself like you are an employee, and have that like inner person in you that's like, today you're time blocking your schedule. You have to do these things and not act like an employee anymore. Like not act like an employee to nothing, and truly be your own boss. And like not in like the boss babe way, but like truly be like a CEO and like be like a boss, probably for the first time, to yourself. It's a very interesting, like you have to have this little like sergeant in you. Another question somebody asked me, and I got this question a lot, was what are your current like 2025 goals, and what am I currently working on? The last year of my life, year and a half of specifically 2024, I feel like I have just been broken and then rebuilt. When I mentioned this in the vlog a few months ago, people in the comments were like, yeah, I know what you mean of when you are a content creator, because I was talking about when you're a content creator and you go through like traumatic real life things, it's so hard because you're putting this pressure on yourself to like have a content strategy and have fun and like be consistent, but you're going through like real life traumatic things, and it's just, I don't know, there's so much in there. But anyways, feel like my goals for my business and my content and everything are so, this is gonna sound so like lame and cheesy to some people, but that's how I feel. I feel like my goals I set and like what I intend to do are for my soul and not for my ego, if that makes sense. Like in 2023, my goals would have been like, okay, hit 100K on YouTube and make, I don't know, X amount of money and hit this follower count and hit this revenue count for the month. And I was so focused on, I was really in 2023 making money that for the first time that I didn't even know was possible. And so it's an interesting thing when you start growing and making money, that your identity and your value as a person there's no difference between how good you feel about yourself and how you think people value you because of how much money you're making or how many followers you have or X, Y, and Z. And your identity becomes so fused with how well you're doing. I feel like that's just such a messy thing, because as human beings, when you hit these goals that you have, you will never feel the way you think you feel, because you're naturally programmed to already be on to the next thing. And the success so is in like the journey. There's such a difference between knowing something and feeling something. And you know that, but I actually so feel that deeply. You know that quote that's like, if you were to accomplish what you have on your goal list, but no one knew you accomplished it, like say you hit every goal on your list, but you couldn't tell anybody and no one would know, would you even still want those things? Like, no. For a lot of the things I used to have on my lists in my like earlier 20s, and the world of social media too, is you start chasing other people's goals without realizing it. And so anyways, this is a whole other topic, but to answer your question in the most long-winded, rambly way, the goals I'm currently working on is that I am chasing a feeling right now so deeply, and it is like my number one priority, is that my life feels a certain way. And I like feel so detached right now more than ever from numbers when it comes to like hitting income counts or follower counts or like whatever it is, because I've hit those things, and I have hit those things, and I think I've talked about this before, and felt the worst I've ever felt when I forget how much exactly, but I remember in the summer of 2023, I was like, okay, I want to hit 100,000 followers on TikTok and make this much money a month. And I hit them. And I was the most like depressed shell, burnt out version of myself I'd ever been. But I was technically the most successful I've ever been. But is success being like so burnt out and depressed and anxious and like can't feel your arms or your face because you're working so much? No, that's actually not success. So anyways, I feel like right now, after going through such a hard year last year in 2025, I'm like, I just want my life to feel a certain way. I wake up every day, and I don't know if this feeling ever goes away, where I feel so like deeply lucky to be alive. And I don't know if that feeling will ever go away, but it truly changes your life, like when you go through something where that could not have been the case. And so anyways, my number one thing I'm working on is that whatever I'm doing at Busy Blooming or with this podcast or with my social or whatever, I want it to feel a certain way, and I want it to be so not about me and like all about like helping people feel that way too, and like helping others grow their dreams and like feel really good growing them, because I know what it's like to not. And in 2025, there's like such a specific list of things in my notes app that I want to feel every single morning, of like a regulated nervous system and feeling peaceful and grateful and like fulfilled and happy, and like I'm making a difference. And if I continue to make a lot of revenue, like change people's life with that money and like help people. And I do have business goals and like things we want to do and like launch and strategies, but my overarching goal in 2025 is to feel this like peace, happiness, regulated nervous system, like gratitude, love in my life every single day. Like that is my number one priority with everything, because life is short and it's such a privilege to feel that way. And my whole goals list, honestly, is just a bunch of feelings I want to have, and with work and how I want you to feel. And, you know, normally just making your whole goals list just a list of feelings and mindsets that you either don't want to have or that you want to have, because that's truly what we're chasing at the end of the day anyways. Anyway, sorry, that was such a long-winded answer, but as always, that's sometimes how I feel. A lot of people ask me about one-on-one coaching and will I do that anymore? I don't know. When I launch Busy Blooming HQ, I'll see if people still feel like they want to do that with me, because you will get like one-on-one stuff with me. So I might open it up like later in the year if I feel like I still want to do that, but we'll see. We'll see how Busy Blooming HQ goes, and if you feel like maybe you don't need a full-on like sit down, but we'll see. Maybe I might open it up later, like maybe in Q4. Okay, the last question I'll answer, because it's getting so long, but somebody asked, I would love to know more about your goals, which we just talked about, and how do you schedule out your time to make sure everything gets done? So in terms of like organization, I do have a vlog on that I can link below, and I could do a whole video on it. I have one video that's like a Notion weekly routine that I stand by. Like I love that video. I still do that. In terms of like productivity and all of that, there's really two parts to it. So the first part for me is I truly deeply treat my habits like medicine. Like, I have a list of things that I have to do the same way that you would like take a prescription from a doctor. Even if I don't feel a difference, if I don't feel like doing it, I have to do it. And so because of that, I feel like when it comes to productivity, you can't be productive when you're not feeling great and you're exhausted and burnt out and not fueled. So a couple examples of that I guess I could share is I could do a whole video on this. Really prioritize my certain supplements. I could do a whole TikTok or something on those if you want, but I take like GABA, L-theanine, fish oil, a lot of vitamin D, ashwagandha, things like that, like every single day. I really look at my food like medicine. Like, I really prioritize eating a ton of protein, a ton of fruits and veggies, a lot of water, just like it's medicine. Like, it makes you feel so good. And same with walking. I have to walk outside for at least an hour every single day. It's so good for like anxiety and things like that. I prioritize sleep over everything, like minimum 8 hours a night. Going to bed at like 9:30. Again, like it's medicine. Like, I have to do it. Morning prayer, grounding meditation. I have to do that. I have to like just do certain things. I have a list on my phone that like that's my medicine. Like, it's my prescription. My family doctor is actually really great at being like holistic into like supplements and natural like wellness, anxiety, calming things. So I have like such a good routine that I could do a whole video on that. So that I feel like results in a lot of productivity is just having medicine like habits, not in like a toxic way, but you know what I mean. I mean like balance, sometimes you don't do those things every single day, but trying to really view it less of like an aesthetics fitness thing and more of like a medicinal thing, so you fuel yourself with what you need, especially as like a founder. And then in terms of my productivity, in terms of work and organization, so that Notion video I can link below, but I every single morning have a 9 a.m. meeting with myself, founder hour. I get my little coffee. Sometimes I do it outside when I'm on my walk. I'll like literally talk like a psychopath in my headphones, go through my day and like everything I want to do, like typing it into my notes as I'm talking into my headphones. Or I sit down, usually in the morning, sit down with my computer or my notebook, and I look on the business of the podcast, Visibly HQ, our Instagram, our mission, our vision, our goals of what we're working towards. Because in terms of my personal goals, that's what I mentioned before, but I do obviously have like business goals and things we're trying to accomplish and do, and with our brand and our business and different things. So I really look on the business, and then I time block my whole day, every single day. I have started doing this in the last 6 months, and I love a time block. So every morning I look on the business, make sure everything's aligned and feeling really good, respond to comments, all of that stuff. And then I time block out the day, and I like to treat everything like a meeting, like a 9 to 5. It feels so good. And I've really stopped trying to feel of like, oh, do I feel like doing this, or do I feel like recording it, and just like doing it. Because I used to, when I first started working for myself, I would do a lot of like only doing what I felt like. And so this has definitely, my mindset has changed a lot about that, of like, okay, from 10 to 11 we're doing the podcast, like we're gonna do the podcast. Again, if I need to refilm it, I'll refilm it, but I'll at least try from that time block. So yeah, okay, I feel like those are all the questions. This after hours is getting like so long, but I hope you enjoyed this episode of a little bit more behind the scenes about me and Busy Blooming. And I could talk about this like every single week forever. So let me know if you have any other questions down below. As always, use the comment section as an extension of the video and we can unpack. But I hope you are having a gorgeous week. And I think I'm going to do a bonus episode this weekend. So stay tuned for that. And stay tuned for June 9th at Busy Blooming HQ. And okay, I'll see you guys soon. Bye.